Good morning. Today's topic is mental health and the tools that I personally can utilize to help me. For me, mental health is a really important topic. I'm not a therapist or anything, so everything that I share is only based on my own experience and what helps me. And although this topic is heavily covered on YouTube anyways, I think it is important to kind of talk about it and to kind of normalize, especially with male demographic. Men tend not to talk about their mental health and issues a lot, so I think it is important to kind of talk about it. And because I am now in my car going to the gym, I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of share some of the tools, tips and tricks that maybe you could consider implementing in your life. I think the biggest factor for mental health is obviously, as the name implies, your mental state, your mind and everything that is going on. And for me, one form to kind of help me with that is to utilize this form of escapism, not to ignore the problems. And I think that is the biggest factor. People think kind of or opt for the way to ignore their problems. And honestly, and that is with male especially, they tend not to talk about what their problems are or what is going on in their mind. And that is a form of ignoring, and then escapism isn't a healthy tool to kind of deal with your problems. I utilize escapism, and I'm not sure if that is the right terminology for this, for some of the tools that I will mention, but it is the easiest for me to kind of utilize right now. Escape from your problems in a way where your brain is not concentrating on your problems, in order for you, when you get back to those problems, to look at those problems with a new perspective, and more importantly from a refreshed perspective. I'm going now to the gym. I do martial arts training, so Muay Thai and boxing, but I also love motorcycling. The common denominator for both of these hobbies is both need you to be present, because if you aren't, if you continue thinking about your problems whilst doing those two hobbies, you will get hurt. If you're on a motorcycle and just only think about the problem, you don't consider the road. By the way, always drive safe. I always switch off my display so I don't get distracted, and I treat this as if we were sitting next to each other and talking. If you are getting distracted on a motorcycle, you will get into an accident. If you are distracted whilst training Muay Thai, it doesn't matter if you're sparring, it doesn't matter if you're holding the pads, it doesn't matter if you're kicking or hitting the pads, you will either hurt yourself or hurt your training partner. So it is really important that you are in the moment, that you are present, and that you forget what your problems are. That helps me a lot to get away and then get re-energized and go back to my problems or to the task that I have at hand. And I am able to kind of look at my problems from a different perspective, from a refreshed perspective, and hopefully I'm able to deal with it a little bit better. Next up is a thing that I have been kind of recommending for the last few days in these vlogs, is a retro gaming device. It is not necessarily about the device itself, but rather to utilize a tool to get away from your phone. Our phones, unfortunately, while they are a marvel of technology, I love my phone, they are also the root of some of our problems. Social media and notifications and the weird suggestive part that we are not alone, because The part of social media and being always connected to WhatsApp or to our communication gives us the weird perception that we aren't alone. So this is the first part of the phone. We believe we aren't alone because we are connected with people. But that is actually wrong. We are actually not connected. We are very superficially connected to the people, and instead of actually talking to people on the phone or in person, we think a message, a DM is the same thing. It is not. So that is a huge problem. But also the notifications from work are really, kind of keeping your brain going, of working all of the time, and you aren't able to kind of switch off. Next up is all of that doom scrolling on social media. That is terrible for your mental health, because you are wasting time consuming stuff that is either unimportant, unreal, or just AI slop, or like I mentioned in the video yesterday, rage bait. And it is terrible for your mental health, because you occupy your mental health with either work, be it like with notifications, or with AI slop, with doom scrolling content that is purely unnecessary, or that is rage bait and that is getting you in a very agitated state. So getting away from your phone by utilizing retro gaming, so switching one display for another, to do something that is arguably maybe not like something good or anything, in terms, in air quotes, good, like reading news or reading a scientific book where you learn something. But you will get away from that doom scrolling. And let's be real, when you doom scroll, you don't learn anything either. So you just switch one display for the other for an activity that is active. When you game, you are active. You are not just consuming, you are actively doing something. If you play a game, you use your fingers, you use your brain capacity, and that is so much more beneficial. But the benefit is obviously that you are getting away from the notifications, you're getting away from brainlessly doom scrolling and consuming content that isn't really good for you. That is why I think retro gaming is a huge deal for getting better in terms of mental health, because you get away from those notifications, you get away from doom scrolling. Next up is finding something, and this is continuing with getting away from your phone. It doesn't have to be necessarily retro gaming, but for example, I love photography. And switching your phone for a dedicated camera, for example, is also a huge deal, because let me just find the parking spot. Oh, there is one. It is a huge deal because, again, you find a hobby for yourself where you can basically get away from your phone, from those notifications, because yes, your camera on your phone is amazing, but again, it will kind of force you to take notice of notifications. And me as a freelancer, with my phone in hand, I'm always in work mode. So having a camera, a physical camera, maybe also an analog camera where you kind of appreciate every single shot, because you utilize an analog film that once you shoot it, it's basically gone. It's so much better because you kind of don't take the shots for granted. And again, you get away from the notifications. It's all about getting away from your phone. Again, I love the phone. It's a marvel of technology, but for our mental health, I think it is important to get away from it. And that is one of the tools that I want to give you, be it either retro gaming, be it having a different physical device like camera. But also, if you want to utilize your phone, for example, I love audiobooks. It is a really good way to listen to an audiobook instead of a podcast or listening to YouTube, because I like the example of, I don't listen to financial podcasts, but I do know people who listen a lot to those kinds of podcasts. But I feel like those types of podcasts, while they are really good probably for whatever you want to do, they also get you in that mindset where you kind of start to worry, am I doing the right financial things? Again, I'm not listening to financial podcasts, but I feel like it is a really good topic or a really good example. It kind of brings you always back into this work mode. And I think when you substitute those types of podcasts or YouTube videos with an audiobook, and I feel like it shouldn't be something where you learn something. Again, this goes back to this escapism for the sake of going back refreshed and resetting your brain with something. I feel like you should listen to something that is fictional and not necessarily something that is like self-improving. I mean, there's the argument of listening to self-improvement books, but I feel like for me, it's all about kind of switching off and resetting your brain a little bit to get into a mental state where it puts it down to zero again, so you can get back refreshed to your issues, to your problems, and look at them from a different perspective, which is why I kind of recommend, or I love listening to audiobooks that are fictional. Especially, again, I love Harry Potter. I listen to Harry Potter multiple times, but it resets my brain perfectly to kind of look at my problems, at my to-dos from a refreshed perspective. So to summarize, for me, mental health, and again, this is not about mental health per se, but about giving you some of the tools that I utilize to get into a refreshed state. It is all about escapism for the sake of resetting my brain and resetting my energy so that I can approach my problems and my issues and my thought process from a refreshed perspective. Not, and that is very important, don't utilize escapism to ignore your problems, because that will make it worse. Utilize it in a way that, yeah, again, you reset your brain a little bit. So, and utilize that tools like retro gaming, and I love Chrono Trigger because I can really dive into that story, and that is why I made that love letter, because I can kind of dive into that story and that resets my brain, even if I only play for 10 minutes to tackle my work issues, or I listen to an audiobook, or now I'm going to the gym. And that is also a distinguishing factor. For me, the gym is Muay Thai and boxing. Yes, you can go lift weights, but I feel like when I lift weights, which I love as well now, I still think about my problems. So find something where you can really dive into that activity to reset your brain. Honestly, I don't like running because whenever I am jogging, I am still thinking about my problems. So that is not a good substitute or tool for me to help my mental health. So that is something to think about. Find something, a hobby, a tool, an activity where you can actually dive in fully into it. Team sports also really good because your brain will think about everyone else of your team and kind of stop thinking about your problems. So that's a good tool to reset as well. Or Dungeons and Dragons, I love that. That is also really good to kind of reset your brain. Find something, find a hobby, a tool to help you always to kind of reset your brain for a couple of minutes. Again, that is why I love retro gaming. It is, with those handhelds, it is great to use as a tool to get away from your phone and then reset. And you can only do it for 10 minutes. When you start up your Xbox, you cannot do that for 10 minutes. So retro gaming for me is a perfect tool to reset my brains in those 10 minutes that I have available. So think about that. And yeah, Let me know in the comment section below, what are your tools to kind of reset your brain to help your mental health? Let me know in the comment section below, and maybe check out my video from yesterday in the video up here. YouTube thinks you like the video down here. Don't forget to hype, like, and help me to get to 2,000 subscribers by subscribing and clicking the button up here. That way we can see each other tomorrow. And yeah, thank you very much.